Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel says it stopped firing for many hours in northern Gaza to help civilians leave. Telecommunication and internet down again in Gaza. Antony Blinken pays unannounced visit to Iraq, says humanitarian pause could advance prospects of getting hostages released. Blinken to meet Turkish foreign minister on Monday. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese meets Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing today, seeks dialogue and cooperation. India remains unbeaten at Cricket World Cup 2023, registers 8th consecutive win by defeating South Africa. Let's get you details from Israel-Hamas conflict first. A ray of hope had emerged in the month-long conflict amid pressure for a humanitarian pause. Israel stopped firing in northern Gaza for several hours, 2 days in a row, to create safe passage for civilians to move to the south. A military spokesperson said Saturday and Sunday, Israeli troops, for many hours with prior notice and warning, we stopped firing in certain areas of northern Gaza, which is the main combat area, and we called on Palestinians to move to the south.
أنا موجود في شارع صلاح الدين جنوب حي الزيتون. إحنا اليوم فتحنا شارع صلاح الدين كممر إنساني لمواطنين شمال القطاع. أنا بطلب كمان مرة لكل مواطنين شمال القطاع ومدينة غزة، انزلوا جنوب وادي غزة. شمال القطاع ومدينة غزة هي منطقة حرب، منطقة خطيرة جدا. حماس المجرم الإرهابي بيستغلكم كضروب بشرية. انزلوا جنوب قطاع، انزلوا جنوب وادي غزة. احنا بنعطي السماح لإدخال المساعدات الإنسانية لجنوب وادي غزة.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Sunday said that U.S. officials were working to secure a humanitarian pause in Gaza that would advance several priorities, including getting more aid to Palestinians and also getting hostages held by Hamas released. Blinken, during an unannounced stop in Baghdad, stressed on the need to prevent spread of Israel-Hamas conflict.
It's important that the pause advance a number of things. One of them is hostages. We are intensely focused, the United States, Israel, every other country that has one of its citizens being held hostage by Hamas, to bring them home. There again, a humanitarian pause can also help advance that and create an environment in which we can do as much as possible for people who so desperately need the assistance.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will hold talks with his Turkish counterpart, Hakan Fidan, on Monday on the ongoing Gaza conflict. Blinken arrived in Turkey's capital Ankara on Sunday after a brief stopover in Baghdad. Blinken, for 3 days, has been dashing around West Asia, trying to prevent a wider regional conflict. And DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh gets us this ground report on the current situation from Israel.
Even as Israel continued with its intensified military campaign inside the Gaza Strip, there were refugee camps. Jabalia and Al-Burej were hit, and the casualties have now gone up to 10,000 of the number of Gazans dead since the intensified military campaign by Israel started. The number of injured is anywhere close to about 35,000. While all this is on, hectic diplomacy was on. U.S. Secretary of State or the U.S. Foreign Minister Antony Blinken was in Ramallah, the capital of Palestine in West Bank, and met with the President of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas. The meeting, which is said to have lasted for about 45 minutes, there were no joint statements issued after the meeting, making it very clear that the Arab leaders and the United States is not on the same page when it comes to ceasefire. The Arab leaders leaders, including Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, wants the US to effect a ceasefire, which the US is in no position because the Israelis are not listening to them. Antony Blinken is in the region in West Asia for with a message from President Biden for a humanitarian pause. But Benjamin Netanyahu, during his meeting with Blinken, told him very clearly there is no question that Israel will go in for a humanitarian pause, even as Israel allowed a 3-hour window for North Gazans to pass out to come out of the Gaza city on the Salah highway and move down to south. But there were hardly any movements. Clearly, in the days to come, the military campaign of Israel will intensify. Now the threat of how the Arab countries, especially the neighboring countries and non-state actors which are backed by Iran, react, and would it then escalate into a regional war. Amritpal Singh for DD India.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu disciplined a junior member of his cabinet who appeared to voice openness to the idea of Israel carrying out a nuclear strike on Gaza. Netanyahu's office issued a statement saying that the minister concerned, Heritage Minister Amieh Elayu from a far-right party in the coalition government, had been suspended from cabinet meetings until further notice. Earlier asked in a radio interview about the hypothetical nuclear option, Elayu said that's one way. His remark drew swift condemnation from around the Arab world and was deemed objectionable by a US official. The Israeli military on Sunday said that it had exposed a network of Hamas tunnels, command centers and rocket launchers beneath and adjacent to hospitals in northern Gaza. Without giving details of reported attack, Israel's chief military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said the military operates based on intelligence information and examines every event thoroughly. Israel's army spokesperson, in a press briefing, presented videos, photographs and audio recordings that demonstrated Hamas's strategy of using hospitals as cover and preventing civilians from leaving combat zones.
Hamas systematically exploits hospitals as part of its war machine. This is a satellite image of the hospital complex taken after the massacre of 7th of October. I am going to zoom in on the area here. Okay, across the street, only 75 meters, 80 meters to the hospital. Here, the IDF identified a launch pad, meaning they launch rockets from here. I want to repeat it. They launch rockets on Israel 75 meters from an hospital. Why? They know precisely that if Israel will airstrike a launch pad like that, the hospital would be damaged.
The U.S. Ohio-class submarine arrived in the Middle East on Sunday. Since October 7th, when Hamas launched its terrorist attack on Israel, the U.S. military has bolstered its presence in the Middle East. Ohio-class submarines are nuclear-powered submarines which are capable of carrying cruise missiles and conducting special operations. They are designed for extended strategic deterrent patrols. In mid-October, the Pentagon ordered the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier strike group to the eastern Mediterranean near Israel to deter Iran or Hezbollah from joining the Israel-Hamas conflict. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has met with the leader of the Iran-backed Palestinian group Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Tehran. Iranian state media reported on Sunday, a day after a Hamas official said that they held a meeting in recent days. Iranian state media said Haniyeh briefed Khamenei on the latest developments in the Gaza Strip, as well as developments in the West Bank. Without elaborating when the meeting took place, Iran's Tasnim news agency said the country's top authority, Khamenei, emphasized on Tehran's consistent policy of supporting the Palestinian forces against Israel. Israeli forensic teams are screening cars that were damaged during the October 7th Hamas attack, looking for evidence of human remains. The vehicles were collected in a junkyard in southern Israel, in Netivot, where the forensic teams are also trying to identify owners of the cars and what might have happened to them during the attack. At least 1,400 Israelis were killed in the deadliest day of the nation's 75-year history.
This is one of the last places where you can actually see the damage that was done, because we're clearing out a lot. But it hurts, it hurts your heart every time you walk in or every time you see this, because you know just how many people died in these cars and how many people were hurt, on the 7th of October. It's a date that we'll remember probably for the rest of our lives.
Let's get to updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. At least 5 people were injured in Russian missile strikes on Odessa late on Sunday. One of the city's principal art galleries, Odessa National Fine Arts Museum, was badly damaged in the attack. The museum, in one of the oldest palaces of Odessa, housed before the war more than 10,000 pieces of art, including paintings by some of the best-known Russian and Ukrainian artists of the late 19th and early 20th century. Russian military forces carried out airstrikes on a drone warehouse in Syria's Idlib governorate, the Russian Interfax news agency reported on Sunday. No information about the scale of the damage or potential casualties was available. The Syrian army accused rebels, calling them Islamist jihadists, for attacks on government-held areas in Idlib and Aleppo provinces, and also denied indiscriminate shelling of areas under rebel control. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the U.S. to provide more funding to help his forces counter Russia and invited former U.S. President Donald Trump to fly in to see the scale of the conflict for himself. In an interview airing on Sunday, Zelensky invited former U.S. President Trump, a Republican, to visit Ukraine and see the fallout of the conflict. Zelensky said he will need 24 minutes to explain to President Trump that he cannot manage the war. Trump had been sharply critical of U.S. support for Kyiv and had said that he could end the war in 24 hours if re-elected. The European Union executive is expected to recommend taking Ukraine one step closer to becoming a member of the bloc this week, according to the EU officials. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's Brussels-based executive will publish a report on Wednesday, assessing progress achieved towards membership by EU hopefuls. On a visit to Kyiv on Saturday, she praised Ukraine for making headway. The Commission said last June that Ukraine met 2 out of 7 conditions the EU had set to start membership talks. The Commission report on Wednesday will also cover other EU hopefuls, including Georgia and Moldova. A quick look at other updates making it to the headlines from across the world. Following up to the events when a man drove through the airport barrier, Hamburg police officials evacuated the airport urgently. They then cordoned off the area to search for the person. Later, the suspect was arrested and the airport was again made operational for the passengers. In the latest attacks, more than 20 people were killed after shells hit the market in Omdurman during an intense exchange of fire between the two sides. Located in a suburb of Sudanese capital Khartoum, Omdurman has witnessed fierce battles since clashes for power started in April this year. A car crashed in the front lawn of a pub in Dalesford, a rural town in Australia, killing 5 people, including 2 children. Several others were injured, including the 66-year-old driver, who is admitted in the hospital. Formal identification of victims is pending, while the cause of the accident is yet to be determined. A quick break ahead, but still to come on this edition of DD India. As Delhi's air quality continues to be severe, Stage 4 of the Graded Response Action Plan activated in the national capital. 8th edition of Vizag Navy Marathon receives overwhelming response in the city on Sunday.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's get you more international updates. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will hold bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday. Albanese became the first Australian leader to visit China since 2016 when he landed in Shanghai on Saturday. Albanese's government has taken credit for stabilizing ties with China since coming to office last year. DD India correspondent Patrick Falk gets us details from Singapore.
Well, this is an opportunity really to get ties back on track, and that appears to be something that's very much welcome by the Chinese side following years of acrimony between the governments. And as a matter of fact, there was an article in the state-run Global Times lauding the resumption of summit dialogue. That article also took aim at Anthony Albanese's predecessor, Scott Morrison, accusing him of being responsible for the securitization, polarization and demonization of this bilateral relationship. There is a sense, though, that the relationship can really never get back to where it once was, and it's very much headed in a direction that is more practical now. And as the Australian Prime Minister said over the weekend in Shanghai, the big sticking point for Beijing, really, where Australia is concerned, is its deepening security alliance with Washington, which very much counters its own regional security interests. And Beijing blames the US also for sowing discord between China and Australia. This is something that would help Beijing very much at a time when its own economy is really suffering from quite a severe slowdown. Notably, as some observers have pointed out, the trade restrictions that Beijing imposed on Australia backfired in many ways, because it didn't bring Canberra closer to China. Instead, it pushed it closer towards the US. So this is something that makes a lot of sense for China to try and mend that relationship as much as it is for Canberra to do the same.
The United States, South Korea and Japan have agreed to launch a high-level consultative group on countering North Korean cyber activities. South Korea's presidential office said on Monday that such cyber activities finance North's unlawful weapons programs. The announcement comes after the leaders of the three countries agreed at a summit in August at Camp David that they would establish a new trilateral working group for the North's cyber threats. Security advisors of the three countries also agreed to hold quarterly meetings under the new framework. All right, DD India's correspondent Chris Gilbert gets us more details from Tokyo.
They're looking to really boost their coordination, their cooperation, their strategy to effectively prevent any escalation in security threats or cybersecurity events in the future. The fact that they're even having these talks is fruit born from an expedited warming of ties between Japan and South Korea over the last year, at least at the managerial level, at the executive level. The US is able to get them into the room together for these kinds of talks, and what they're looking to do is make them even more regular. That is the main takeaway from these security chief talks last week, is that they want to now meet quarterly to discuss global cybersecurity threats, with an eye, of course, on North Korea. It's been a reasonably quiet year for North Korea in terms of its illegal ballistic missile launches. In 2022, of course, we saw a record year. Some accounts showing 73 to 90 missiles launched by North Korea. We've seen about half that many this year. And the other reason, of course, is the ongoing bombardment of Gaza going on at the moment by Israel is likely to effectively hijack the conversation at this meeting. However, when it does come to the Indo-Pacific, when it does come to North Korea, Japan is going to very much be looking for assurances from the United States.
Malaysian Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir arrives in India for a two-day visit. The visiting dignitary will co-chair the 6th India-Malaysia Joint Commission meeting with Indian counterpart Dr. S. Jaishankar during his two-day visit. The Joint Commission meeting will review the progress of enhanced strategic partnership with Malaysia in several areas. He will also call on the Indian Vice President. The visit will provide an opportunity to comprehensively review bilateral relations and to explore ways to further deepen and strengthen them. First Australia-India Education and Skill Council meeting was held today in the western city of Gandhinagar. The two sides comprehensively reviewed bilateral cooperation in education and skilling and agreed to further strengthen the knowledge and skilling partnerships for greater mobility, employability and prosperity of people in both the countries. Indian Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan expressed satisfaction as the steady progress made on the mutual recognition of qualifications, establishment of joint working group, joint skill collaborations, study in India, visa-related issues for Indian students and research scholars, among others. The heads of the border guarding forces of India and Nepal will meet today in New Delhi to discuss crucial issues related to the borders. This will be the 7th annual coordination meeting between the Sashastra Seema Bal and also Nepal's armed police force and is scheduled to take place from November 6th to 8th. The talks at the level of two heads of forces serve as a crucial platform for both forces to engage in discussions on border-related matters. The meeting is aimed to strengthen coordination between the two border guarding forces for more effective management of the open and unfenced Indo-Nepal border. The last coordination meeting was held at Kathmandu in September last year. The overall air quality in Delhi continued to remain in the critical category today. As per official data, the overall air quality in the national capital stood in the critical category with an AQI, that is Air Quality Index, of 471 at 7 a.m. As per an analysis conducted by Delhi Pollution Control Committee, the national capital is witnessing the highest levels of pollution between 1st and 15th of November, coinciding with the spike in stubble burning incidents in Punjab and Haryana. To combat this, the Delhi Fire Services collaborated with the government to spray water at hotspots in an effort to alleviate the situation. Jessica Taneja has got us more details.
The toxic haze continues to cloud New Delhi. Doctors say that long-term impact on health could be severe, potentially leading to even lung cancer. According to recent studies, average resident of Delhi could lose up to 12 years of life to air pollution. The government and authorities are putting measures in place. Schools have been shut. People have been asked to stay indoors. 50% of the state government employees are working from home. In fact, private employers are also considering the same. But these measures are not enough. People say this kind of institutional response is not helping the situation on the ground. Perhaps more concerted approach to tackle this menace could help in dealing with this crisis in the long run. This is Jessica Taneja with video journalist Radhi Krishna in New Delhi for DD India.
And now we take a look at all the stories making it to the headlines today from India. Specialized troops of Spear Corps, Indian Army, rehearsed combat free fall and delivery of logistics by guided precision air delivery system using aerial platforms to validate rapid response capabilities. The 8th edition of Vizag Navy Marathon in Visakhapatnam saw an exceptional turnout with over 12,000 participants of all ages, including children, women, youth and senior citizens, as well as naval personnel from India and abroad running along the beach road. In Srinagar, potters craft significant quantity of earthen lamps for Diwali. A young Kashmiri potter fulfilled a substantial order of 20,000 lamps, working diligently to meet the deadline. A grand Deepotsav has been celebrated before Diwali by BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Vadodara. The devotees celebrated by praying for ethical economic prosperity and success in their careers. Let's get you updates from the older sports now. After a disappointing World Cup campaign, Sri Lanka has sacked its cricket governing body and replaced it with an interim committee. The board came under heavy criticism after Sri Lanka crashed out of the semi-final race following their dismal performance. Sri Lanka has won only 2 of their 7 World Cup matches. Sri Lanka's Ministry of Sport has appointed World Cup winning former captain Arjuna Ranatunga as the head of the committee. Ranatunga will be joined by 2 retired Supreme Court judges in the 7-member committee. Coastal rowing is included in the 37th National Games in Goa and is part of the National Games for the first time. Also, coastal rowing is going to make its debut in the Los Angeles Olympics. DD India correspondent Suchitra Bhardwaj catches up with tournament director Ismail Beg, who compares coastal rowing to T20 cricket and feels this is the future.
Sir, to see coastal rowing in India, that too in national games, it's a pleasure, especially when it's part of the LA Olympics.
This whole credit goes to the Goa government, Goa people. They are hosting the first time they're conducting here. That is from part of the All Rowing Federation, All Rowers, and thanks to everyone for this opportunity.
How do you see India's chances in coastal rowing when it comes to international events?
India has a lot of good beaches, good coastal area. We need good equipments. This is expensive also, but some of the state already buy these equipments. Hopefully in the coming 2 years, this sports will be spread out to the other parts of the country. Hopefully we will conduct good nationals and make the good teams for the coming international events.
How the idea of including coastal rowing in the national games was originated?
Last 5-6 months we came to here, we're discussing about the rowing. Rowing also a lot of difficulties here. All rivers connect to the sea, the tidal water, the up and downs, how to organize we are facing. When the time we see that this beach sitting in the lawn, why need to start the coastal rowing here? That's some ideas just start here. Today they become the true.
And what kind of challenges do you see for Indian rowers?
There's a different type and fun type. I think most is audience maybe more attached for this game with a short distance. On the beaches we have the good beaches. Hopefully like a 2020 cricket this will become a good popular in the coming years.
And do you see more water sports lovers getting attracted towards coastal rowing, and coastal rowing will be popular in India very soon?
Definitely become a very popular, hopefully. We need to provide good equipments in the beaches so the people come and row and enjoy this rowing.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, ma'am.
So Tournament Director Ismail Beg feels that coastal rowing will be very popular in India, and it's really important for Indian rowers to do well in coastal rowing because it's going to be a part of the LA Olympics. With camera person Sumit Dhiman, this is Suchitra reporting for DD India from Goa.
World number 1 Novak Djokovic cruised to a record extending 7th Paris Masters title on Sunday. Now this is the Serb's 40th Masters title in total and his 97th on the ATP Tour as he beat unseeded Bulgarian Dimitrov 6-4, 6-3 in the French capital. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.